He'll make it for sure. Now that's why I backed him on TABtouch.
Hey, Luke!
Yes, Gene Simmons?
He's probably the best when it comes to this stuff!
Thanks, Gene.
You've got the touch! You got the touch, you got the power. Got the touch? Choose TABtouch. Better your bet. Download the app today.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle.
Ellis fumbled the ball. 2 on the shot clock. Goes up a prayer. Yes! As he was falling to the ground, it's a 3. He shot it literally from the hip.
Definitely a highlight.
Here come the Billikens. 4 on 2. McCall. Ellis. Left corner.
We're missing out.
Bang! From way down under. Cody Ellis.
Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and we're done with HoopsFest, Cody. I think it was a great success all around, and we'll talk about everything that happened in Perth for the start of the NBL season, but there was a lot more going on, including you being out there on the court a little bit in the middle of the Perth city. But in terms of the NBL, I think we saw some messages sent. I think Bryce and Keanu Pinder certainly sent a message on Friday night. I think all the reasons you were excited to see Montrezl Harrell were well and truly backed up. I think we saw surprises from New Zealand and the Brisbane Bullets in totally different ways than we were expecting to start the season. The three-man combination up front for the Illawarra Hawks is going to be mighty tough to stop as this season unfolds. Bit of early trouble for the Jack Jumpers and the Taipans as well, I think. But this will all be about HoopsFest, Cody. Yeah. I'm Chris Pike, as always, but the man everyone is tuning to hear from, the former Sydney Kings and Illawarra Hawks forward, the Warwick Senators championship-winning captain, Cody Ellis. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's good to be back after a packed weekend of basketball. It was really good. It was good to see that Perth getting around all the games. Not so much the Challenge Stadium ones or the HBF Stadium ones, but yeah, look, I think it was done really well.
Before we get into, I guess, the business side of HoopsFest with the the start of the NBL season, talk me through your week.
Yeah, look, so Thursday afternoon, started playing in the 3-on-3 hustle that was run by the NBL, which was really good in Forest Plaza. So It was, in the outdoors. But, no, look.
But playing right in the middle of the city, what was that like?
It was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool, apart from the court being over the big fountain there in Forest Plaza. But, no, it was really good. It was done really well. And, for something that was kind of thrown together at the last minute, I think it was run really well. So, yeah, did that on Thursday. And then Saturday afternoon had the semi-final and grand final. And my team made the grand final, which was a bit unexpected, but
a three-man team as well.
Three-man team, yeah, exactly. So we were a man down for the whole thing anyway. But no, we ended up losing to the Hoop with them boys that everyone kind of expected to win. I mean, they head to New York to play in the Red Bull 3-on-3 International Cup next month. So yeah, look, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it was cool to be in the middle of the city and having people stopping and watching and. Then getting photos with some of the kids afterwards, and yeah, it was really good. Yeah,
I did see a photo pop up. It's pretty cool when somebody's excited to be sharing a court with you. I mean, that must be a cool feeling.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So, look, some of the young Rhinos boys were, have really only just started playing basketball. So it was cool to be able to play with some of those guys and. Share the court with them, and obviously very raw, but I think they've got a lot of potential. So it was cool. It was very cool.
You took in the Thursday night game with the Jack Jumpers and United. How different of a feeling was it to a usual Wildcats game in RSC Arena?
Yeah, very different. Very different. Not quite the same atmosphere. I think there was about 4,500 people there, as opposed to the 13 that you usually get to the Cats games. So, but no, look, I think it was run pretty well. Obviously, you got the big DJ booth at the one end, which cut off a lot of seats. So even at the Cats games, there was a few thousand seats missing.
Yeah.
But, look, it was really good. It was really good. I think that even though it was a Melbourne and Tasmania game, I think the atmosphere was pretty good. And it kind of swayed between who the crowd was going for a little bit too. There was your obvious fans in their Tassie jerseys and their United jerseys, but it was a fun game to be at.
The boombox, a bit of talk about that. It's a cool looking thing. I mean, and especially sort of in introductions and everything, when they can use it to put graphics on there, it's pretty cool. It's an impressive structure, and it's a very loud structure as well once the DJs get up and going. But as a player, how do you think you would have gone with that as your backdrop?
Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot, but it's one of those things that you kind of, it's a bit of a shock to the system to start with, but you get used to it. Yeah, look, I mean, when the game was going on, it was very bright and very colourful, and it's not your usual backdrop behind the backboard, so it would have been a little distracting, but I'm sure most of the boys didn't really notice it too much after probably the first quarter, really. Yeah.
HoopsFest overall, how would you sum it up?
A great concept. I think the idea of it is awesome, and I think that, I really hope that they do keep doing it from now on and doing something like this, whether it's back here in Perth or having it somewhere else in the coming years. I think really there was a couple downfalls for me. Probably one was really the advertising around it. I think we didn't really hear too much around the city up until kind of the week leading to it, which is a bit frustrating. I think they could have really hyped it up and really gave it a good crack at getting as many people as possible there. And then obviously the games on Saturday, not being at RAC, was something that, again, it's a bit frustrating. And I know Sneakerland have got RAC covered for years to come. Like, that was their day for forever. So,
but if you're one of those 4 teams playing at the old Challenge, do you feel a little bit cheated?
Absolutely. And I think I certainly think some of the Brizzy boys felt that way as well. Hearing that Big Rocco Sigarski, who is a bit of the poster boy of the whole league, was a bit upset that he wasn't able to experience RAC. And honestly, your first experience at RAC should be against the Cats anyway. So, it's it is what it is. But look, to come all this way and not play at the main arena, I think is probably a bit disappointing. So look, if they can figure out what to do there, even if they push it back a couple of weeks so that the WNBL teams can actually have a couple of weeks of preseason before scratch matches.
It was interesting seeing teams play that hadn't even trained together yet and virtually sort of practice squads, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, mostly development players and practice players. So, that's a bit disappointing, but, I mean, it's tough to line those 2 seasons up with, the difference in season, unfortunately. But
it was interesting getting there on Thursday and watching the Lynx were playing. They're playing the Sydney Flames, I think, in that first game. Almost didn't recognise anybody out on the court.
Yeah, honestly. So, had lots of young players out there, which, I mean, great experience. But still, for them to be able to play at RAC as well is something that would be a great experience for them. So, it's tough. So, to be able to line all that up, it's a very, very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So, but look, overall, I do think that it was run pretty well. And I think to be able to get 4,500 to the Melbourne and Tassie game, and then just over 4,000 to the Sydney-Adelaide game on Sunday afternoon. I think obviously your Cats game, you're going to get your crowd there anyway. So
I wasn't sure how they were going to do the Wildcats game, if they were going to open up more of the stadium, because for the Melbourne game on the Thursday, all the top decks were closed off and a lot of the sections were closed off, and then I wasn't sure if that would be set up for the whole weekend, but. Gee, I mean, Friday night was completely packed. I don't think they could have squeezed in another person because you take out probably 2,000 seats for the boombox. It was completely packed.
Yeah, it was, and that's not surprising at all. I mean, especially with the Perth team, the way it's been put together, they're going to be an exciting team.
I think they were worried though because it doesn't count as part of the Wildcats membership because it's not an official Wildcats home game. But every single one of those fans bought their tickets.
And look, I think they did a good job. I think the tickets weren't crazy expensive either. So I think they did a good job of keeping the prices down probably as low as they possibly could. For everyone, just to try and draw crowds. So I think that side of things was done very well. There's always going to be growing pains. It's the first year they've done anything like this. So I think it was a good little base to figure out how to move forward with it. And like I said, hopefully that it's something that keeps going from now on because it is a great concept.
I think that's a good way to put it because I think it's a really exciting concept to have so many facets of basketball in one. in one place. I mean, you have a global superstar like Carmelo, obviously, as well, and then you have some of the best young talent from all around the world come to play as well with the Basketball Without Borders, and then you have some of the best talent in the country come and play the under-18s championships, and you have all the NBL and WNBL teams here as well. So for a basketball festival, it's fantastic, but from an NBL point of view, it costs a lot of money. Like there's no way it made money. Like it's a big money loser because of how much money they had to spend. They probably more money than they made just on getting Carmelo here, you would imagine. So how do you judge it as a success? Because it's not ever going to be a money-making thing, but is it just a great celebration of basketball?
I think so. I think it's a good celebration of the start of the season for the NBL. And look, getting Melo out here, I don't know if that would have been as costly as we may think, just because he's part of the whole Next Stars and he wants to be an owner in the league, kind of a thing. So
and same with Kenny.
Yeah, 100%. I think even having Kenny down here was great. I think having those two global names here in Perth and just around the NBL, and I can't imagine the amount of interviews they did. They would have been going crazy, I'm sure. So, but no, look, I think that for two guys like that to be in and around it and want to be in and around it, not just paid for to come over and be around it, I think is something that, like I said, the NBL can build on for sure. But yeah, I'm sure it just hemorrhaged money, unfortunately. But I think the more eyes you can get on it, the better. And maybe there's some people around Perth that didn't really know or don't really watch too much NBL that would have seen some of the teams walking around the city or in at Hoops Heaven and run into those guys and might have sparked a bit more of an interest. And yeah, look, you got to take money out of it for it to be a success, because if you're going to do it financially, then it's never going to be a success. But you're right. I think it's just more of a celebration of the season starting.
All right, Cody, let's get to what we saw on the court throughout the weekend. 5 games across 4 days to start the NBL season. Started Thursday night, Melbourne United against a undermanned, and I felt a little dispirited Tasmania Jack Jumpers, even though they still made a run late. But Melbourne 88-79 winners. The Perth Wildcats, I mean, they were exciting. And I was talking to Damien Martin last week, and he said that he expects the Wildcats to average 106 points a game this season. I told him it was crazy.
Yep.
And they come out and score 106 points, exactly. So they beat the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix 98. This was a shock for me. The final result does not tell the story of this game at all. The New Zealand Breakers beat the Brisbane Bullets 91-87. And then probably as we expected, given the personnel woes of the Cairns Taipans, the Illawarra Hawks pulled away 102-75. And then we thought this would be the game of the round, and I think it was. Yeah. The Sydney Kings beat the Adelaide 36ers 102-94. Let's start with the last game, Cody, because you expected it to be the most exciting game of the season, and there was a lot to take out of this 36ers and Kings game. I mean, there was the most wild swings that I can remember seeing for a long time, because Sydney started the game 19-3. Yeah. And then they were behind already by quarter time. The swings continued throughout the game. We'll get through some of the most crazy plus-minuses that we've seen throughout a game as well. But let's start with Montrezl Harrell, because you were excited to see him in action this NBL season, and now I know why.
Yeah. No, he was fun to watch. He was really fun to watch, and he kind of gave exactly what I thought he would. Yeah, look, to start the game, I thought it was going to be a 40-point Sydney win very easily, and we weren't going to see too much of Montrezl Harrell and what he has to offer, just because the game was blown apart in the first 3 minutes. Yep. I think, like you said, it was 19-3, but that was in the first 2.5 minutes of the game. Yep. And then Adelaide kept Sydney to, I think, 5 points for the rest of the quarter, and ended up being able to put points on the board themselves. So it was crazy. And then Sydney went on another 15-0 run, and then Adelaide just brought it back again, and it was one of the more crazy games that I've seen in terms of the swings of the scoreboard, and just haymaker after haymaker. Yeah. So Harrell was fun to watch, and you can see just, I guess, his leadership for that team is huge. Obviously you've got guys like DJ and Isaac and Jace Kadee that are the leaders of that team, but I think his presence on the floor was huge for Adelaide, and I think that's only going to get better and better the more he's around the group. I know we forget that he's only been there a week before they played.
Yeah.
And he already fit in, very, very well.
Yeah.
So, look, exciting for them. Obviously couldn't get it done, but it couldn't get it done against what we think are the championship favourites. So, look, I do think that they fought really hard and fought well. And again, if they hadn't have given up those massive runs, then it might be talking about a different story here.
Yeah, I also feel like if they're playing just about anybody else except the Kings, they probably win that game as well. They played pretty well. I don't want to move off from Montrezl yet because he is an excitement machine. He's going to be a draw card. Wherever Adelaide now go and travel, people are going to want to go and watch him play. And he wants to interact with the crowd as well. We saw him after hitting a free throw, trying to excite the crowd. There was nothing negative at all about it.
No.
He's trying to excite the crowd, and he's told to not interact with the crowd. Have you ever seen anything more bizarre on a basketball court?
Yeah, not in that kind of a context.
No.
It's different if you're drawing at someone on the sideline and, you're talking back and forth to one or two people or a little bunch of people.
Oh, or you might be told to not take any notice of Simon Devlin.
Yes, exactly. So, it's different then, but, he was just trying to get the crowd involved.
He was.
And again, it is tough because the Perth fans aren't going to be up and about the same way they are at a Cats game as a Sydney-Adelaide game. So he's trying to get the crowd up and going. He's trying to get himself going with it and the team going with it and all that. And then
and we forget he hasn't played in 12 months because he had a knee reconstruction, so he's just excited to be playing again.
Oh, exactly. And it's frustrating to have something like that happen and then have a ref step in to stop something like that. It's just like the NBL itself has hyped up him coming over as much as they possibly can.
Yes.
And then for you to go out and try and
calm him down.
Yeah. Try and dim that light is just crazy. And look, we saw that he went up and apologised after and said, look, my fault. That shouldn't have happened.
Yes, I think the senior official stepped in and said, look, pull your head in, mate.
But it's just like how can that be something that you're worried about at the moment? Like, I understand trying to keep the game under control. If it's him and someone else going face to face, if it's him and Leo Pepe going face to face, then you're just like, okay, maybe we need to calm this down.
Sure.
Not after a free throw, like getting the crowd involved and all that kind of a thing. And I mean, he was taken back by it. You could see.
Yes.
You could see he was wondering what the heck was going on. So it is what it is. It's frustrating, but I think the whole umpiring crew is going to get a bit of a talking to about how to go about reffing games with Adelaide with Montrezl on the floor from now on. And
I don't think we're going to see that again, are we?
I wouldn't assume so, no. Yeah, look, I'm excited to see what he's like in a hostile environment.
Yes.
It would have been fun for them to play Perth.
Yes, yes.
But, look, it's it's a frustrating thing, but it is what it is. And it's happened, and I guess the good thing to come out of it is hopefully we don't see it again.
No.
And it's get in the bud nice and early.
Yep, he'll be up in Cairns on Friday night, so we'll see how
nice and hostile.
how that goes. The plus minus numbers from that game, Cody, I've never seen anything like it because of the swings from players on the one team. So let's go with the positives from Adelaide. Montrezl Harrell was fantastic. So he went plus 23, Nick Marshall plus 20, Jason Kadee plus 15, Alex Starling plus 12 in only 8 minutes. Yep. But then look at these. Isaac Humphries only played 18 minutes because of foul trouble, minus 32. Sunday Detch, who started, minus 25. DJ Vasilovic, minus 20. Lat Mayen, who I thought played a good game, but sometimes you don't always judge a good game on the plus minus. So he went minus 19. And Kendrick Davis, minus 14. Then on the other side of it, look at these from the Sydney Kings. So I think everyone thought coming into the season the depth was the great strength of the Sydney Kings, but Brian Goorjian spoke afterwards and he was really disappointed what he got out of his bench crew. And this is why. Isaiah Liafa, minus 31. Makawach Malawach, minus 20, Sean Bruce, minus 11, Kwat Noi, minus 10. But then his starters, Bull Kowal, plus 39, Alex Tui, plus 31, Jalen Adams, plus 19, Kali Lupepe, plus 14, Xavier Cooks, plus 11. Looking at those numbers, what do you think?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a plus minus column this all over the place, honestly.
No.
And with some, star players in the deep negatives is pretty crazy. I think on the Adelaide side, Nick Marshall came out and he was aggressive, and I thought he was really good for them. Jace Kadee came out and just settled them a lot, and he was a big reason why they came back in that first quarter. He just settled it. He ran the show really well. Starling was good in his little stints here and there. But yeah, look, Big Isaac was didn't have his finest game, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, minus 32 in 18 minutes is tough. That is really tough.
Yeah, and he ended up 2 points, 3 turnovers, 1 rebound.
Yeah, not his best game. But that's okay. It is what it is. It's one game. He'll be able to move on from that for sure. Sunday and DJ, minus 25 and minus 20, that's something that I wouldn't expect us to see too much moving forward. At my end, I thought he came in was actually really good for them. I thought he was aggressive and played well, and minus 19 kind of shocked me a little bit when I did see that.
Yeah, because he scored 23 points himself.
Yeah. So, but then on the Kings side, Bull Qual, we know what he gives. He's going to be so good for this Kings team if he can figure out how not to foul.
What that shows, plus 39, is that he needs to figure out a way to be able to stay on the court.
Exactly. I feel like we have this conversation pretty much every single week with him. Tui, again, I said it last week, I expect Tui to have a breakout year and be unreal this year for them. And plus 31 with him on the floor is no real surprise. Adams came out, was super aggressive, had like 12 points of their first 15 or something like that.
This was the Jalen Adams from his MVP season, wasn't it?
Very much so. And I think, his final stat line was very, very good for a first game.
Yeah. I mean, 25 points, 7 assists, shot the ball well.
Yeah. So, look, Cooks with his plus 11, that's, I think that's probably on the low side for Cooks, really. Liafa, I think, is going to be a lot better than a minus 31.
Yeah, that's the one that shocked me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Look, plus minus is always a bit of an up in the air stat.
Yeah. Because
it's not 100% in your control either. So, it is a tough one. But, look, it does show that, when you're on the floor, how much better your team is. But again, it has a lot to do with lineups and all that kind of thing. So it is tough, but, like we said, the fact that there was so many high pluses and so many low minuses is pretty wild. It's just it was insane. And for a game that, was the way it was, I wasn't expecting those kind of numbers.
Because it ended up being a close game.
That's what I mean. You see these numbers in blowouts, not in close games. And you see these numbers, either one team's got all big positives, and the other one's all big minuses, so you never see them kind of mix and match throughout the teams the way they are.
I'm interested in the plus minus. When you're involved in a team, when you analyse a game or when you're doing your review afterwards, do you look at that? Is it something you do focus on?
Look, I think it's a good stat. I like it. But you can't read too much into it. Like I said, it's one of those ones that, it does have to do with the lineups that are out on the floor and that kind of a thing. And it's something that's not overly in your control. Yeah. I think we went over it last year, but, it's kind of what the plus minus is, when you're on the floor, is the team, do you score more? Do you get beat by more points? That kind of a thing. So it is tough because it's not really an individual.
It completely depends on the other 4 guys, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's dependent on the whole 5 and the whole unit out on the floor, unfortunately. But look, I do like the stat because I think that it does show the importance of some players on the floor. Like we said with Harrell, for sure, we saw how important he was out on the floor. It's a tough one, and the ones that I read into more so is when you compare the minutes to the plus minus. So if you've got someone playing the whole 40 minutes, then their plus minus is just going to be the difference of the game.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's hard to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But your Humphreys in 18 minutes being minus 32, that's a big one for me. That's the one that is, you've got to look at and be like, all right, what's going on here? Why was this?
I assume he's killed by that 19-3 start, and then he gets subbed out before they make their comeback.
But that's it, right? And that's what you got to look at, and that's it is a bit of an overcomplicated stat. But look, some people love it, some people hate it. I kind of sit on the fence a little bit with it. I do like the stat though.
I guess as a player, it just depends if it makes you look good or bad, doesn't it?
Exactly. So it's an interesting one.
All right, Cody. Let's take our first break on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle this week, and we'll hear from TABtouch. When we come back, we'll talk some Perth Wildcats. Sounds good.
He'll make it for sure. That's why I backed him on TABtouch.
You got the touch. You got the power. Got the touch? Choose TABtouch. Better your bet. Download the app today.
Imagine what you could be buying instead.
Back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, I'm here with Cody Ellis. As always, the home fans on Friday night, Cody, they turned out in droves, as we talked about, 11,500 people at RAC Arena. One team had to be the unfortunate team to play a road game without it officially being a road game. Yeah. It was the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix that copped it, and they copped a Wildcats team that wanted to make a statement, and Bryce Cotton dominated the first half, Keanu Pinder dominated the second, and the Wildcats got the win. But what's it like if you're a Wildcats fan?
Yeah, certainly is, and I think that, like we've said already multiple times, like the Cats have put very exciting team together. And I think the Perth fans are going to love coming out and watching them all season long. First half we saw MVP Bryce show up, and then second half we saw back-to-back multiple most improved Keanu Pinder rock up as well.
He scored 12 points in a row on his own.
Yeah,
incredible.
It was 14.
14, sorry.
14. Yeah, it was. So it's. And then had to come off because he cut his hand on the rim.
That's right.
So he would have been not too happy with that. But no, it was just... And that was right at the point where I thought Southeast was starting to make a bit of a charge, and then Keanu decided to get back-to-back triples, and then a couple tough plays inside, and a steal and a dunk, and then a little dump-off and a dunk, which cut his hand open, which was no good. And that kind of really put them back out to a comfortable margin, and it kind of stayed there for the rest of the game. So... No, look, I think offensively, we're always going to see this kind of a Wildcats team. Allow this playing with his keys, making all the noise in the background. We're always going to see this Wildcats team. It's something that is going to happen pretty much every single night. Like I said, the defensive end is the thing that concerns me with them, and I think if they can figure that out, then they are legit title contenders as well. I do think they're already title contenders for sure, but I think defensive end is where they're going to win it all. And look, to give up 98 points to a Southeast Melbourne team that
almost felt like they never quite got into
really
full gear, did they? No,
or much like that. I think is it's not the end of the world. Again, it's first game of the season, neutral game,
yes,
quotation marks, but. Yeah, look, it is what it is. I think for really any staff, he would have been pretty happy with the hit out. Yep. I think they've done a great job of covering what they wanted to in the off season in their 3-point shooting and their rebounding. I think we saw Doolittle come out and just be a monster on the boards, which is fun to see.
He had 13 of them.
Yeah, and
even Windler had 10.
Yeah,
so yeah.
So and then some of the new recruits just being able to light it up from the outside, I think really just opens it up for Bryce and Keanu, we've seen. So they're going to be an exciting team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they better themselves throughout the season.
The other thing I liked was how good they looked when Ben Henschel had the ball in his hands. He ended up with 7 assists for the game, and might not be long before he takes over that starting spot from Ty.
Yeah, and look, I think it was a funny one because to start the game, he kind of looked like he was really nervous. He had a couple plays where he kind of bobbled it a bit and maybe took a shot here and there that wasn't a great shot for him and that kind of a thing. And he looked a bit nervous, but then as the game went on, he really just got comfortable and he's an exciting young prospect. And Ty didn't have his best game. That's what it is. No. Henschel, that's the advantage the Cats have is they've got a few guys that can back Ty up if he's not having his best game. Ty's going to come out and he's going to win games for the Cats this season. I have no doubt in my mind, just by running the team and doing what he does. But if he's not on, then you got guys like Ben Henschel that can step in and play that role as well. And again, keeping the ball out of Bryce's hands in terms of bringing it up as much as possible so that he has free reign at the other end of the floor, come off those pin downs and all that kind of thing. Like we've mentioned in the past, I think is huge. And if Henschel can keep doing what he's doing, then it wouldn't surprise if we saw his minutes just start to skyrocket.
Yeah. Our first look at Ethan Almanza as well, and I thought he looked really impressive. I mean, to be an inside post presence as well, that gives him another interesting look. He's got a very nice little hook.
Well, he's got a great hook with both hands.
Yes.
I think one of my favourites was the on the right block. Kind of took a dribble baseline, spun back
With his left hand,
hook.
yep.
I think that was pretty. And, I think that, again, being so young, he's only going to get better and better, with each week that comes. And he showed some great signs. We kind of saw Alex Sarr in the start of the season, didn't really impact too heavily, but we saw as the season go on and him get more comfortable and figure out the league and figure out his body more, we saw how impactful he became last year. I think it's going to be the same with Almanza. And I think, he's certainly one to keep your eyes on in their next start.
Wasn't a great start for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, and we thought that would be the case because they were coming in without Sean McDonald and Craig Sword, two of their most important players, and unfortunately Will Magnay didn't have a great night for the most part, and then he also copped a big hit late in the game, but it looks like he'll be okay from that, and he'll be right to play. Gorjak Gak didn't play either. I'm not sure if that was a physical thing, but it feels like they could have used his big body out there at times as well. But Scott Roth was prickly. He was pleasantly surprised to see me post-match, which I was glad about because we usually have to talk to each other through Zoom. But he was a little bit prickly, and I think it was just because he felt like their preparation wasn't great. So before they went to the Blitz on the Gold Coast, they had spent some time with a bit of a bonding camp in Burnie. Then they went and played their games on the Gold Coast for the Blitz on Saturday and Monday. Then they had to go straight to Singapore for the Intercontinental Cup and play games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then come straight to Perth and play the first game as well on Thursday. He was most concerned about the physical toll it would have on his players, and unfortunately they did cop injuries. You don't know if it's a result of that, but it certainly didn't help. Yeah, a tough situation for them to be put in. They were still competitive. I mean, they still got that game back close against Melbourne, even though Melbourne played pretty well and Melbourne was out for full strength. But yeah, they're in a tough situation.
Yeah, they are, and that's a massive lead up to the season. The season's long enough as it is. When you're away for 2.5 weeks before that, it's a lot, and it's a lot physically, and it is a lot mentally. A lot of travel, a lot of airports, a lot of hotel beds. Like it's a lot of food that isn't exactly home cooked meals. It's that does take its toll, and we've seen this with teams that go and play in the NBL games as well. Yes, right. So they tend to come back and really take a couple of weeks to get their stride properly. Obviously, this is a little different, but not too dissimilar.
There was one season where CJ Bruden felt like it took half a season for his team to actually get back in their groove.
Yeah, 100%, and it does. It takes its toll, especially because you're not just at home after that. You're at home for a few days. And
you got to play catch-up games.
And you have to play catch-up games. You have to play multiple double headers. You have to, you have to make up for it. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. And their little camp before all that, the team bonding camp, I think that's awesome. I think most teams should be doing that.
I think most teams do. Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's something that is a must for sure. Yep. But then going to the Gold Coast, then going to Singapore, and then coming back to Perth, playing the first game, not ideal. It's really not ideal. And I'm not sure who's scheduling that is, whether it's the NBL or, Tassie's, but there needs to be some sort of compromise somewhere.
Well, I don't think Tassie did any of that by choice.
No, I'm sure they did.
They get told when the Blitz is, they weren't given a choice to play in the Intercontinental Cup either. They were told they had to go there, and they don't have a choice when the season starts either.
No, they don't. No.
Yeah.
No. Look, that's frustrating and absolutely makes all the sense in the world why Scott Roth was the way he was. And obviously it doesn't help when you start losing players before the season even starts. And then, possibly losing players for a week or so in Magnay taking big hit. You end up loading up guys with more minutes than they're probably used to and probably, thinking about playing. And it takes its toll, and it's a bit of a ripple effect through the whole team. So look, not ideal, but you got to do it, unfortunately.
Is the way around this happening in the future to make sure you have a week in between the Blitz and then the start of the season? Do we need a bit more of a gap?
I think so. I never really understood why the Blitz was the week before the season.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense.
I feel like every team deserves to have a week at home to then get ready for round one.
Yeah, I think so. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever.
Yep.
You know, I do think that it needs to be a little more spread out.
Yeah, because most teams came straight from Gold Coast to Perth.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with it being HoopsFest this year. So everyone in a neutral playing field, it doesn't make too much sense that they would have teams go straight from the Blitz to Perth to play the first round of the season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, you know, it's one of those stepping stones in figuring out HoopsFest and that kind of a thing. Because I do think if you're having HoopsFest, if you're having it at all the first round of the season all in one spot, and the Blitz becomes a little less important.
Yes.
Look, I still think it needs to be done. Yep. Absolutely. The preseason tournament is always been there, and I'm sure it always will be.
I also feel like if you have a longer break before the season starts, you don't need to rest guys for that last game at the Blitz either. You can actually play your guys a little bit more. For sure.
And again, you know, that's kind of the Blitz is to help blow the cobwebs off and figure out each other and figure out the team and that kind of thing again. So, like you said, whether there's a week or two in between the Blitz and the first round of games, then I think that would only be good for the league. But again, it's tough because of timing of everything. You got to time it around, you know, the AFL as well and all that kind of a thing. And it's really tough. So, you know, I don't envy the people putting the schedule together.
And I guess in turn, if you put it back earlier, then you're impacting the NBL 1 national finals as well. So everything sort of has a flow-on effect, doesn't it? Yes. Illawarra Hawks, we thought they would have a big advantage in the backcourt against the Taipans, given the Taipans were missing all of their point guards without Taron Armstrong and Kyle Adnam and Jackson McCoy. But it was up front that the Hawks dominated. I can't wait to watch a whole season now of Sam Froling, Lockie Olbrich and Darius Days, because they're going to be mighty tough to stop. So they combined for 51 points, 31 rebounds. They shot 21 of 36 between the three of them. And Justin Tatum said afterwards he wants to figure out if he can find a way to play all three together, which would be fun to watch as well. I mean, this Hawks team overall looks exciting, but those three guys up front, I'm really excited for.
Yeah, they were fun to watch, weren't they? It was awesome. It was good to see Froling aggressive.
Yep.
Olbrich we knew was going to come in and have an impactful season for sure. I think Days, like I said, he's one that I'm excited for out of the whole competition, to just see how he grows and he figures out the league. He had a little stretch in that game where he just couldn't make anything, and then to still finish with what he did was really, really good. And I think that, look, if Tatum can figure out how to put all three of these guys on the court at once, it's going to be problems for other teams. You'd obviously put Days at the 3, and then have Froling and Olbrich running the 4-5, and that would be scary times.
Yes.
Realistically, you'd probably go with a Tyler Harvey in that lineup, and then you could stick anyone else in there. Really,
it could be Kel, it could be Wani for that defensive presence.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, I think, you know, Kel was kind of a bit of a unsung hero in this game too. I think he was really solid for them. I think that, you know, didn't really do a whole lot stat sheet wise, but I think just, again, his presence out there and that bigger bodied guard, I think kind of really, really hurt Cairns in that one. So,
and the first play that Sam Froling mentioned afterwards was that Wani set the tone for them defensively.
It was awesome.
And if you have a look at what Pedro Bradshaw and Rob Edwards did for the Taipans, they shot 6 of 28 combined between them, and I think Wani can take a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely can. I think he was super impressive. And again, you know, it's one of those things that the defensive guys don't really get the flowers that they deserve, and I think Wani was awesome. It was really cool to see.
He might not get all the flowers, but he did get the 3 votes from Damien Martin for the Damo Award to start the round. You might have noticed that former teammates of Damo do have some inside running on this award.
Well, to be fair, they've all learnt from Damo.
Yes, they did. Yep. Mitch Norton, a former winner. Yep. So good to have Damo back involved as well. We'll get to some of our awards later and explain what we're going to be doing this season as well. What do you make of what we saw from the Taipans? Because up until midway through the second quarter, they were right in this game. It was only a 2-point game with 15 minutes to go, and all of a sudden the Hawks blew it out 44-19 the rest of the game. Without Taryn, without Kyle, without Jackson McCoy, it was always going to be tough, and Tad Duffelmeyer did what he could on short notice without, probably only having a week with this team, and really he's not a natural point guard himself, but he had to play that role. Groves was pretty good. I think Edwards and Bradshaw will shoot better as the season goes on. What did you make of what you saw from Cairns?
Yeah, look, I think it's tough to judge with all their outs. It's really tough to judge. I think, like I said, Edwards and Groves, they're going to get better. They're guys that are going to figure out the league, and they're going to just get better throughout the season. And again, you stick in all of your guards into the lineup, and it's a different look team. It's a completely different look team.
Just touching on that, I mean, you can't do anything about Armstrong and Adnam getting injured. No. How unhappy are you if you're Adam Ford with Jackson McCoy getting suspended for these first two games?
Very much so. Very, very upset. That's something that is completely in your control, and something that, in turn just absolutely hurts the team. Yep. So yeah, look, that's got to be extremely frustrating from Fordy's point of view for sure. Again, you stick just one of those guys back in there, it could be a different looking game. Tough to judge Cairns, and we kind of figured that going in, unfortunately. Look, they're obviously going to get better and better throughout the season. 40s teams always do, but they're always going to be there or thereabouts because they play hard. And they all seem to enjoy playing for 40, and I'm looking forward to a full-strength Cairns team to really see what they can do.
The biggest surprise of the entire first round to me was the Breakers-Bullets game, because I thought without Freddie Gillespie that the Bullets would have such an advantage inside with Harrison and Sikorsky that would be the difference in the game. The complete opposite happened. The Breakers had a fantastic game plan where they just wanted to deny Harrison the ball at all costs. They double-teamed him, and Sam Menenga did a fantastic job in disrupting him and getting the ball out of his hands. And what we saw was, I thought the Breakers played the best first 34 minutes of basketball that we saw from any team for the entire round. Their offense was clicking in the first half. They shot 64% from the field. They went 8 of 12 from three just in the first half alone. And I thought their defense was really good to take the Bullets out of anything, because I think the Bullets did look like they were the best prepared team coming into the season, but we didn't see any of that for 34 minutes. I mean, you just look at some of the numbers. That were either side of quarter time. It was a 22-4 run for the Breakers. They went on to score 12 straight points in the third quarter. We're up by 26, and then still with 6 minutes to go, they were leading by 23. And I was doing my match report. As we've talked about before, sometimes I can be the jinx. I had almost had it completely finished, and all I had to do was add in the final score and the final numbers. And then I almost had a heart attack watching the last 6 minutes, because the Bullets went on to score. They went on an 18-2 run. They got within 3. And unfortunately, we've seen this a little bit in Adelaide the last 3 years. Mitch McCarron had a horrible turnover in the backcourt when it's his job to find a way to get the ball up the court. He couldn't do it. They turned it over, and the Bullets went on to score. They got within 2 points in the last 10 seconds. It was incredible. Luckily for the Breakers, they had Parker Jackson Cartwright and his cool head to make sure that they held on to win. I want to start with the first 34 minutes though. I feel like the Breakers couldn't have been more impressive, but the Bullets couldn't have looked worse either. And Justin Schuller summed it up afterwards, calling it pathetic, and I can't really argue.
No, it's tough to argue with that. No, look, New Zealand came in and they looked unreal. They just looked like they were out there playing free. They looked like they'd played together for years, not a couple months. Really, it was good to see. And then you're right, defensively, I think they were really good. I think they were just locked in on their game plan. I think they did a really good job of taking away everything the Bullets wanted to do. And look, I thought Menenga was unbelievable.
It was,
22-7 doesn't really tell the story either. I think defensively he was great. Just that big, strong body against Ty, and look, it was fun to watch and something that I didn't expect from them this early. I think they've certainly got the tools to be able to do that, but like we said last week, I think it's going to take them a little bit of time to figure it out. Clearly not. Again, Brisbane, I think didn't show up. We saw, they were almost a completely different team than we saw at the Blitz.
Yep.
And we did say that the Blitz is that bit of a curse, right?
Yes.
So,
We did.
but yeah, like you said, apart from that last 5 or 6 minutes, Brisbane just looked completely out of it. And New Zealand would probably be a bit upset with the final score.
Yep.
I think.
I mean, this felt like a 20-point game.
It was.
Didn't
It definitely was. So, not ideal, but a win's a win. So you'll certainly take a win on a neutral playing field, and to start the season off 1-0 is always good.
We did say for this Bullets team to be any good, they need their imports to be very, very good. I think we saw enough from Keanu Cook to say that he'll find his feet, and he was instrumental in that last 6-minute run. He ended up with 25 points, and he made some really big shots late. So I think he gets a tick, but their point guard, James Bateman, doesn't. He really struggled, and he came into the season talking about how he wants to be a real defensive pest, and unfortunately he yes. He had no impact on Jackson Cartwright. No. Jackson Cartwright was the controlling player of this game, and Mitch Norton ended up having to play a big role because Bateman wasn't getting the job done. So for your starting point guard to end up with 3 points, 1 of 5 shooting, 3 turnovers, I mean, they just need more, don't they? They need more from him.
Oh, absolutely. And look, coming up against, Pike and Jackson Cartwright, it's obviously a tough first hit out.
Yep.
But it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't matter who you play.
No. Well, he's got Trey Kell and Tyler Harvey now this week.
Yeah, exactly. And then you come against the Cats, and you're dealing with Bryce, and
Yes.
Then you're dealing with Jalen Adams,
Yep.
and there is no easy games in the NBL.
No.
Especially at this position.
Yeah.
So look, I can't see him having a worse game. Honestly, I can't see him having a worse game. So if you're going to take anything positive out of it, that he's only going to get better from this and kind of figure it out. But it's 2 years in a row we've had imports come in saying, I'm going to be this defensive monster and all that.
Yep.
Obviously very early, but not a great look to start the season, unfortunately. So I think the way it is, imports really only have a few weeks to figure it out. Otherwise, they're probably out of a job and trying to find Bullets would be trying to find something else.
I feel like given the situation the Bullets are in, there's not going to be a lot of patience there right now. Justin Schuller needs to figure this out quickly, because I feel like everything is now pointing towards the Bullets feel like their time is now, and they're not going to be sitting on their hands, are they?
No, exactly. So he's got to turn it around pretty quick if he wants to keep his job.
When a coach comes out afterwards, and I mean, I think him saying it was a pathetic performance was spot on. But as a player, when you hear your coach saying that, do you take it on board, or do you wish that he kept it in-house, or what's the player's reaction?
Oh, it's hard to keep it in-house when it was clearly on display for everyone to watch.
Okay.
It's
so you
that would have been a very polite.
Okay.
He would have said it a lot less polite in the locker room.
Okay.
So no, look, absolutely. I mean, there's no way any of them could listen to what Schuller said and be upset.
I don't think they can argue, can they? They can't argue with it.
There is absolutely nothing they can argue with.
And in fairness, Mitch Norton was sitting next to him when he said it and nodding his head in agreement.
Absolutely. Nordo would be the first person to say it anyway. So, there's absolutely no way that you can describe it any differently. I think that, especially game 1 of the season. It's something that you've won the Blitz, you've shown, all right, we're here to play, and then you come out and do what they did, and it was not good. It was not good, but like I said, if there's anything positive from it, I can't see them playing any worse, really.
No, and we'll find out who they take on in this second round when we come back. Let's take our last break, Cody. We'll hear from TABtouch and then get your final thoughts on HoopsFest, and then look ahead to round 2.
Can you picture the first goal before the ball has even bounced? Can you read the footy future in the mullet of a full forward? You've got the touch. Got the touch? Download the TABtouch app today.
You win some, you lose more.
Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, our final segment here with Cody Ellis. I feel like we've covered off things mostly from what we saw across HoopsFest, Cody. I think the 5 games, so not a whole lot to dissect that we've missed. Anything jump out that you want to touch on?
Not overly. I think that across the board, the level of basketball for a first round was higher than normal. I do think that this is usually that first 3-ish weeks. Everyone's still trying to find their feet a little bit, but I think, like I said, across the board, the talent and everyone was pretty switched on. You know, everyone seemed to kind of hit the ground running, and everyone, or all the teams really looked like they were ready to play. So apart from Brisbane,
yes.
But yeah, look, it was a fun first round.
Okay, so we're going to have our 3 awards going again this season, Cody. Even though Simon Mitchell is now back working full-time with the South East Melbourne Phoenix, he's still happy to be part of our team, so we'll still have a show or two with him here or there when you either can't make it or you need a break from the microphone. And he's also going to take over the duties of our Player of the Year award this year, so as his votes roll in, we'll pass those on to you, so it'll be fascinating to see what he's... From a coach's perspective more than anything, and also now as a basketball GM, what he's seeing and what he values, and if it lines up to what we're valuing. Also, we'll still have Matty Knight involved, and he'll take over the duties of our Galen Award, so we'll pass that on when we can as well. I'll see what Matty comes back with, but my nomination for round 1 would be Sam Menenga. I thought he was fantastic on debut for the Breakers.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think it's hard to find many other players that kind of had the impact that he did. So I would, 100% agree with you.
We'll see if Matty agrees too then. And then we'll get back to you. And we'll still have Damien Martin doing his Defensive Player of the Year award. And we do have his votes in, as I said earlier. 3 votes for Wani Swaka-Lubuluk for his effort for the Hawks. 2 votes Sam Menenga, so he liked what Sam did as well. And he's gone 1 vote for Marcus Lee, because I agree with him. What he did up against Will Magnay, it was fascinating to watch the championship teammates go against each other. And there was one play where Marcus blocked Will up one end. Yep. It was his hand just went straight up in the air, and he denied Will, who was trying to dunk it. And then he goes up and finishes an alley-oop up the other end. I think it looked like Marcus had a lot of fun playing against his old team.
He certainly did. And that was a matchup that I really enjoyed watching up close and personal, because I was at that one. So look, that was fun, and I think it's a very well deserved point.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on those as the season unfolds, Cody. Let's get into round 2 though, because it starts very quickly and it gets underway Thursday night with a throwdown. So life doesn't get much easier for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix to bring in the new season up against Melbourne United Thursday night, John Cain Arena. Melbourne, thanks to TABtouch, $1.40. The Phoenix $2.95. What do you think?
Yeah, look, these are always fun to watch. It's good to have a bit of a rivalry, pretty much first couple of rounds. It's always good to see that. So, look, this is going to be an interesting game. I think, like we said, the Phoenix didn't really hit their stride properly against the Cats,
and they still almost pinched it.
They did. Yeah. They did. They were there or thereabouts. I think that Melbourne, on the other hand, they had patches where they did look pretty good. Yep. Patches where they didn't look great, but again, coming up against a Tassie team that's always so well drilled, they're hard to
put away.
To put away. They're kind of Melbourne's bogey team. It's interesting one. Though, look, I think United probably do get this one and kind of start to really flex a muscle and show everyone that they mean business.
Doubleheader Friday night, Cody. We're heading to Wollongong. Illawarra Hawks, who were mighty impressive first up, and TABtouch has got them $1.37. The Brisbane Bullets, who were mighty unimpressive.
Yes.
First up, $3.10. What are you expecting?
A very different looking Bullets team. I assume that Justin Shaw is going to have these guys really ready to go. Yeah. It's going to be a tough week on the training court for them, I'm sure. And probably even tougher in the film room.
Yes. So, yes.
Look, it's good that it's happened this early in the season. I think that it's a lot easier to turn it around early than it is late. So I'm looking forward to watching the battle of the bigs in this game. It's going to be really fun to watch. I think we saw how good the Hawks bigs were in the first round, and how put out of place the Bullets bigs were. Yep. So, look, these are going to be some really fun matchups. I'm really looking forward to this. I think Brizzy paying $3.10 is probably blown out a little bit just because of how they played in that first game. Yeah. But no, look, I think the Hawks do get this one, but I expect a really good game.
Yeah. Second up, this is the Championship Series preview for what most of us are expecting, so it's great to get it first up. And the Sydney Kings have been here all week as well, so they'll be staying in Perth all week, so there's certainly no travel excuses. So both teams with a very similar preparation. The Perth Wildcats against the Sydney Kings. TABtouch virtually can't split them. The Cats 185, the Kings 195. If you're going to watch one game this weekend, make it this one.
Absolutely. And look, I think the reason that the Cats are the favourites is because it's here in Perth.
Yep.
I think it would be very similar odds, just on the other hand, if it was in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
So these are two teams that I'm certainly finding it hard to really separate. I'm looking forward to this one. This is obviously game of the round.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun to watch Bryce and Jalen go at it.
Yes.
I think we've seen plenty of those battles before. But I'm also looking forward to Keanu and Zave. I think that's going to be a fun little matchup. Two guys that impact the game so much and in different ways. So this is going to be a fun one. I do expect Perth to get it purely because it's here in Perth. And I think that the Red Army is going to come out in force and it's going to be a loud one. In there.
Two more games on Saturday. First up, Cairns Taipans back at home, but still missing all three of their point guards. Against the Adelaide 36ers, so the Snakes $2.95, the 36ers $1.40. Not often you see the Taipans that big outsiders at home, but what do you think?
Oh, look, injuries play a massive part in that. They're still missing pieces. I'm not 100% sure when we're going to start seeing those guys coming back into the fold.
I think Taryn's a little while away. Yeah. Kyle was interesting because he's still suited up, but I don't think he's close to playing. And this is the second game for McCoy to miss.
Yeah. Look, that's a tough one. I do expect Adelaide to come out and get that one fairly handily, you would expect. But again, playing in Cairns is always a different beast.
Yeah.
So it's a fun place to play. And yeah, look, again, always excited to watch Montrezl play.
And then we've got another championship series rematch. Yeah. So that'll make it the last 7 games in the NBL that the Jack Jumpers have played have all been against Melbourne United. So crazy that their first 2 games of this year against Melbourne as well. So they're back at home. They'll unveil their championship banner. So it's a big night. From all reports, Will Magnay will be okay to play. Yep. And they'll get Craig Sword back as well. So they'll just be missing Sean McDonald. And Melbourne would have played on Thursday night. What do you think?
Yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of emotion in this one for sure. Obviously unveiling their first ever banner, and that's going to be emotional enough. So look, a week at home is probably going to do them overly good.
Yes.
So I'm sure they'll start to get a little more comfortable. Excited for this one though. This is going to be a fun game. Not sure why they're playing twice in the first 2 rounds.
No.
But, it is what it is. For me, this one's a bit of a flip of the coin. I think obviously you bring Sword back in, but a bit disrupted because he hasn't been playing a little bit now, and where's he going to slot in? How's he going to be playing straight up? It's going to be an interesting one.
Does he take Tarangi's starting spot straight away?
Or
does he come off the bench?
I think it depends how he goes this week at training.
Yep.
If he looks like he's pretty much ready, like full strength, ready to go, then I would assume he would start. And then you'd have Rubes coming off the bench for sure. But yeah, I think it really does. Yeah, it just depends on how he's going, I think.
Yeah.
And look, I think that's something that you would ask the question of him as well.
Yep.
It's tough. Lots of players would say, no, I want to start. But me, for one, I always enjoyed watching the game start and kind of figuring out the pace of it and seeing the flow of the game. And
especially when you've never played in the NBL before.
Yeah, definitely. So, look, I'm sure he'll be itching to get out and just play. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he started, for sure. Got to pick one, don't I?
Yep.
Let's go with Tassie. I think the emotion of unveiling their banner and having a bit more of a full squad together and a week at home with their families and in their own bed, I think will be a good little refresher for them. And hopefully Magnay's full strength, so we can watch that Magnay lead.
Yes. 2 more on Sunday to finish things off. And, well, your 2 old teams, Cody. Sydney Kings-Adelaide Hawks. Both of them coming off playing on Friday night. The Kings have got a little bit further to travel to get to this game in Sydney. Their home opener. I expect a big crowd for this one. And I expect it to be a cracking game. What do you think?
Yeah, another rivalry game.
Yes.
So, got rivalry round in round 2. So, no, look, this will be a good one. Again, no matter what team is put on the floor for both of these 2 clubs, it's always a good game. It was always fun to be part of. I just think the Kings have a bit too much firepower. Hawks will be more acclimatised to the time, though.
Yes.
Kings will be on Perth time, I think, by the time.
Well, they would have been in Perth for a week and a half.
Yeah. They'll be on Perth time. So, could work to the Hawks' advantage a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. It's also the first game on Sunday, so it's the early starting game. So they fly home on Saturday, so it could take all day to get back to Sydney, and then Sunday morning they have to turn up at the venue. It will be a little bit tricky to adjust.
Oh, it will. But again, it's not that big of a deal. It's 2 hours at the moment, so it's not awful. And to be honest with you, I think having that earlier game is probably more of an advantage for the Kings. So it's not later on in the day. But like I said, I do think the Kings get this one. I think that, I think just that little bit too much firepower this early in the season. But look, it should be an awesome game. Again, looking forward to it.
Is it unrealistic to expect 15,000 people at this game?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. I think, again, with the team that the Kings have put together, I think they're an exciting team, and I think all of Sydney will be out in force to watch them. Okay,
then the round wraps up. New Zealand Breakers, first home game of the season. I mean, it's a whole new era in so many ways. So first time Tom Abercrombie won't be playing, but I think he'll be on the commentary. Yep. So that'll be interesting. First home game for most of these guys in the Breakers team, and they have the momentum from what they did to start the season up against Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, who have a short turnaround again, going from Thursday to head straight over to Auckland.
Yeah, look, it's a tough first couple of rounds for the Phoenix.
Well, it doesn't get tougher. I mean, you have to play a neutral away game, so they're the unlucky ones in Perth, and a few days later back home to play Melbourne, and then they have to cop New Zealand.
Yeah, it's tough. So tough way to start the year off, unfortunately. But it's hard to go against the Breakers in this one. Again, just purely off what they did in that first game. I think if they can continue that defensively, then that flows into their offense pretty well. Look, I do like the Phoenix team. I think they've got a lot of good pieces. Looking forward to seeing the guard matchups in this one. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to go with the Breakers just because they're at home and the excess travel that the Phoenix have had to do. But yeah, it's again another fun game to watch.
So if all that goes to plan, if the Phoenix are 0-3, do we hear from Simon Mitchell next week?
Yeah, honestly.
Or does he turn his phone off from us?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. We might need to just blow some steam off, so he may be calling in to have a good old chat. But look, you don't want any team to go on to start the season. But there's not too many tough schedules that the Phoenix have faced.
No, you're right. All right, Cody, that's been a lot to get through. So thanks to TABtouch for making it happen. So head to tabtouch.com.au or the TABtouch app, and we've got an exclusive up for the Wildcats and the Kings on Friday night as well. So if anybody wants to put their money in your hands, then go and click on that on the exclusives app. And it's been fun to break all this down, Cody. I think we all enjoyed HoopsFest, so let's hope that it's back again in one form or another next year. We'll be back next week to break down how round 2 all pans out. I'm Chris Pike. I'll leave it there and leave you with the final word of whatever's on your mind.
Yeah, no, look, obviously massive second round. And if the first round was anything to go off, I'm really excited for really every single one of these games this week. So, yeah, look, enjoy, and we'll talk to you next week.
Can you picture the first goal before the ball's even bounced? You might have the touch. When the weather's wet, can you feel who'll triumph? You've got the power. Can you read the footy future in the mullet of a full forward? Then you too might be harnessing the power of the touch. Got the touch? Download the TABtouch app today.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.